Now, what's interesting is there's estimated between $50 billion and $100 billion of assets that are going to go into these ETFs over the coming years, which means that the fee revenue every year could be $500 million to $1 billion. And so if you do that, that's $500 million to $1 billion every single year. How much money would you spend now to get those assets and have them be sticky? We're probably going to see hundreds of millions of dollars spent on marketing in the next 12 to 18 months by these Wall Street organizations saying, hey, if you want to buy a spot Bitcoin ETF, come buy it with me and not my competitors. And I think that is just something that we haven't seen in finance. It's going to be the greatest marketing blitz ever.
SEC will reject all Bitcoin spot ETFs in January, coming from Matrixport. So this is what we're going to be talking about in today's video, the potential of the Bitcoin spot ETF being approved versus being denied. We saw this news come out yesterday and the price of Bitcoin tanked, currently at $42,700 at the time of recording. So stay tuned to the end. We're going to be going over what we think will happen with the spot Bitcoin ETF. And is this Matrixport analyst right? But if you guys are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. We have new crypto, Bitcoin, financial related content coming out every single day. Let's go ahead and jump into it here today. This is actually from the Matrixport founder talking about this article here. If you come down here, you can see he says that the current 5-person voting commission leadership critical for the approval of the spot Bitcoin ETF is dominated by Democrats. SEC Chair Gensler is not embracing crypto in the U.S., and it might even be a very long shot to expect that he would vote to approve Bitcoin spot ETF. So this is why they think that this spot ETF might not get approved. But he also says that in response to the ongoing market volatility, he stated that Matrixport analysts operate independently, expressing their opinions without any influence or interference from management. He shrugged off claims that the Matrixport report derailed the price of Bitcoin, instead blaming the price action on the Bitcoin purse market, high funding fees, and the recent pullback in crypto related to stocks. So he's saying this isn't from us. It doesn't really matter what our opinion is on this. The price action had nothing to do with what our analyst said there. So interesting to see that there. But in other news, Fidelity just filed a registration of securities for its spot Bitcoin ETF. So they're still working on amending their ETF filing, finishing it up, getting ready to do the funding. A lot of this is coming this week. A lot of people are saying January 10th, that's what we're going to see the Bitcoin spot ETF get approved. So that'll be 6 days from now. And if we have to check out what Bloomberg has to say about it, they said, we have heard nothing to indicate anything but approval for the Bitcoin spot ETF. So it does look like the Bitcoin spot ETF is going to get approved. I think a lot of people are just very nervous and shaky right now because that approval date is coming very, very soon. And I think the market actually did sell off a bit because of that news. But let's go ahead and check out what Jim Cramer has to say about Bitcoin. This is actually not very bullish, guys. But let's go ahead and see what Jim has to say here about his recent thoughts on Bitcoin.
No, there won't be an ETF. But I do think that the people who are in it for that are going to use that as a chance to sell. But this thing is, you can't kill it.
No, can't.
And the late Charlie Munger, who was so brilliant on so many things, was blind to this. Now you can say, wait a second, maybe it's all going to come
Jamie
around.
Dimon has not spared any negative words.
No, but look, I mean, it's a reality and it's a technological marvel, and I think people have to start recognizing that it's here to stay. The SEC's been against it almost the whole time.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that every one of these is here to stay, but I do think that it's about, this is a remarkable comeback that was unexpected, except for all the bulls who turned out to be right.
Gensler does a lot of jawboning.
Didn't work.
So as you can see there, from a year ago until today, Jim Cramer is now a Bitcoin bull. He was very bearish back in January of 2023 when Bitcoin was around $16,000. And he says, you're an idiot if you own Bitcoin. But now he's completely flipping, saying Bitcoin's not going anywhere. It's not really good because we've seen in the past when Jim Cramer says something, the exact opposite happens. And the day after he said this, Bitcoin's price crashed down to $42,000. So we'll continue to see if Jim will be right this time or if he will continue to be wrong and see lower Bitcoin price action. And Peter Schiff here, dialing in on the Bitcoin news. He has been talking a lot about the Bitcoin ETF, and he believes that we will not see any demand for the Bitcoin ETF once they get approved. So that's also something to take into consideration. And then this is from Joe here. He says that I know people are desperate for a narrative, but Bitcoin didn't sell off because of some silly report about ETF denial. It sold off because nothing goes straight up and it's an easy grab for liquidity to do a long squeeze. In short, the market was overbought. And I do agree with Joe here. I do think the Bitcoin spot ETF news from Major Report did have a little bit of downside for Bitcoin. But if you look at the S&P, the S&P is actually down here a bit from the high that it made a couple of weeks ago. You can see that it is down around 2%, which is pretty substantial for the S&P. Haven't made a new all-time high yet from back in January of 2022, so still waiting for that all-time high in the S&P, but a little bit of a healthy correction here for the S&P before hitting new all-time highs and going back up to the upside. I think we'll see all-time highs here in 2024. For the S&P and for Bitcoin, not financial advice, but that's just my thoughts on it. So is the ETF coming? The Bitcoin bros believe we will see the ETF over the next couple of weeks. We're not sure if this is going to be a sell the news event or a buy the news event, but the one thing you can do is continue to dollar cost average in Bitcoin. I mean, we've been telling you guys to buy this all year last year, basically, when prices were a lot cheaper. I know we're looking at the S&P right now, but looking at Bitcoin here, we were telling you guys to pick up Bitcoin all year last year. If you dollar cost average, you got Bitcoin at some pretty good prices. Bitcoin was as low as $16,000 back here in January. We were screaming at you guys back here in December and January to buy. We were telling you guys to buy up in here. Right now, it does look like Bitcoin is a little bit overbought, but right now is a great time to continue to dollar cost average in, continue to get more sats, put in cold storage, because the supply on the exchanges is doing nothing but going down. So we may see a little bit of a pullback down here to $36,000, maybe back down to $32,000. But it's just going to be another buying opportunity to buy into that volatility of Bitcoin before we start to see new all-time highs. So that's my thoughts on this Bitcoin spot ETF. Ignore all the FUD. Just continue to dollar cost average into Bitcoin. Over the long term, I think you'll be patting yourself on the back. And in other news here, Michael Saylor swaps $216 million in MicroStrategy stocks, and he's going to be buying more Bitcoin. So he's selling some of his personal MicroStrategy stock to buy Bitcoin. This guy is completely putting his money where his mouth is. They recently just bought $750 million of Bitcoin for MicroStrategy, and now Michael is actually getting supreme FOMO, swapping $216 million to get more Bitcoin. If he keeps this up, he's going to have 1 million Bitcoin in a couple of years if the price doesn't run away on him. But MicroStrategy, if Bitcoin does play out and become $1 million coin, a $5 million coin, $10 million coin, MicroStrategy would probably be one of the most valuable companies in the entire world. So something to think about there. Maybe you should pick up some MicroStrategy stock along with your Bitcoin holdings. But let me know what you guys thought about all that in the comment section below. Do you think the Bitcoin spot ETF is still coming? Are you not worried about all this FUD? Do you think it's going to get denied? Put your thoughts in the comment section below. If you found any value, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We have new videos coming out every single day. I'm out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.